Fed up of floor robes, driven to distraction and drowning with doom boxes? Tired of living in chaos? Welcome to Decluttering Untangled, how to declutter when you're overwhelmed, ADHD or autistic. I'm going to help you uncover the secrets to decluttering, no matter what hurdles you face. You'll discover how to declutter, de-stress and transform your world. I'm Heather Tingle, reformed hoarder, neurodivergent declutter queen, and your guide through the maze of mess. Let's get untangled. Hello Untanglers, and welcome to another episode of Decluttering Untangled with me, your host Heather Tingle. Now, in today's episode, I want to talk to you about if you get a buzz from buying. Is there another way to get that buzz, but by borrowing instead of buying? This is because I've had a client this week that had a load of machinery that they don't use, and it got me to thinking about, could they have borrowed it instead? And also last night I attended an APDO meeting. So APDO is the Association of Professional Declutterers and Organisers, of which I am a member. And we talked all about, with my colleagues, we all talked about borrowing, swapping, other ways. Basically, we talked about the hierarchy of needs. So it's based on Maslow, but it's about what we can do instead of buying, or the things that we can do to get to that point before buying. So whether we can swap, whether we can borrow, whether we can reuse something else, for example. So we talked a lot about borrowing, and I think borrowing is something that isn't really ever brought to our attention as an option. And also, I think as a society, we feel the need to own something rather than borrow it. It seems to be that borrowing something has got a lesser status. Like, oh, if you can't afford to buy it, you've got to borrow it. And it seems we're constantly told that buying is good, owning is good. It seemed as a society we've changed from, for example, I know when my grandparents were younger, very, very, very few people bought their own homes. Everybody rented. But now buying homes is seen as like the epitome of success, that buying expensive things means that we are rich. And I think there's more than one way to be rich, I hasten to add, and it's not just about money. And it does seem to be a thing that if we haven't got something, we buy it. And that's the only option available to us. We either have something or we don't. And we haven't got that option to use it. But actually, there is another option, and that's borrowing the item that you want. So I'm going to have a little confession here, and it is an item I've still got. About 8 years ago, I wanted to pressure wash the drive at work. Now, it was a time where Karcher pressure washers were all the rage, and you were the in person, in my brain. I don't think anybody else actually thought this, but in my brain, like, if you've got a Karcher pressure washer, then you are, the business. So, of course, me being me, straight away, my brain went to, ooh, I can buy a really expensive toy here. And to justify the expense, I thought, I'll use it for so much. I can use it on windows, I can use it in my car, I can use it on the drive, I can use it at my home. I can pressure wash things to clean them. Yeah, I've used it once. Now, despite the fact it is very fun, although you do get very, very wet with it, I have used it once. But the thought never occurred to me, ever, to borrow one. Now, I know there are also times when, especially when it comes to like machinery and equipment, sometimes it's only a little bit more money to buy rather than rent from a shop, for example. So you think that actually, if something's going to cost £60 to rent, but like £80 to buy, you think, well, actually renting's throwing my money away. But what you need to think of is the actual cost of an item isn't just the financial cost. You've got to think of like the cost of your mental health, having all this stuff in your house, the cost of storing it, the cost of it taking up space in your home, which is the most finite resource you have, really. Like, we could all need more space, but we can't really get any more of it unless we let go of things. So it does have a cost to it. And I think we kind of forget that. We just think of, oh, well, I might as well buy it because really financially speaking, it probably makes more sense, but does it really? And I also think that we need to start looking at being part of a community more. And I think during COVID times, it was really great that in our local Facebook groups, we were all saying, oh, I really need this item. And someone says, I can get that for you. I've got some. And we had more of a community feel. And I think as time goes on and we want to be more greener, we want to look after our resources. And also we want to, have communities again. That would be really nice. So I think part of that is sharing the resources, but I also think that can feel very hard to do. Now, I think we feel that we can lose our independence a bit. We can lose our ability to be spontaneous. So, for example, if I wanted to pressure wash the doors that evening, then I probably wouldn't be able to do it if I had to borrow something. It's not that quick. I would have to then go somewhere and borrow it rather than just going somewhere and buy it straight off. It feels like you're not able to be as spontaneous. And also, one of the things is we might not have an emotional attachment to that item. And given the fact that, especially me, we attach ourselves so easily to items, it can kind of feel like a bad thing. But honestly, not having an emotional attachment to an item because you're borrowing it to do a job and then you give it back is actually a really healthy thing for us to learn. It's a real freeing thought that if you can get used to that thought, maybe the items in your own home that are yours can kind of be less attached almost. So I think that's really healthy. I also think pooling resources within a community saves us money. It makes us greener, it frees up more space for our treasured possessions in our own home, and it gives us more space to enjoy actually doing the projects that we've decided on, rather than just collecting items to do the projects one day, which I know we all do. I also think, especially if you come from a background of neurodivergence or trauma, it can feel really hard to feel that you're reliant on other people. And also, it can be hard because you might be relying on strangers, whether it's a person, a company, or also you might worry over the scarcity of an item. So this item might not be available when you want it. I think like anything else, it takes practice. So I'm going to give you some examples of small ways to start off just to get that idea of borrowing just floating around in your head, just to get used to it. Now, one of the easiest ways, and it's probably something you've done probably at least once in your life. So, for example, if you like buying books, when was the last time you went to a library and borrowed one? Ooh, big thing, like, oh my word, when did I last do that? Now, I'm guessing it was probably when you were at school or university or when you were in education. But why not normalise that? Also, look out for like your local lending libraries that like pop up in places like old phone boxes. There are so many places these days that you can get like borrow books from. So they're really good. Also, if you ever have you ever been on holiday where people leave their books, like the paperbacks that they've read, and they don't want to carry them home in a suitcase? Instead of taking books with you, why not just borrow them when you're there? And look at things like that. Or if you're like me and you use Audible, because I cannot read books anymore, my brain does not have the ability to concentrate on words in a book. So if you use Audible, why not consider saving yourself some money and swapping, if you're in the UK that is, to the Libby app. So that's Libby. I'll put it in the show notes. All you need is a library card and it is free. It's free to download. It's free to borrow. There's no subscription charges. All you need is a library card. Another way to start small is to check out the borrowing option on the Olio app and see what kind of things are available. And you'll probably be surprised. You'll be like, oh my word, there are so many things on here, whether it's like stuff for a wedding or for an entertaining occasion, or whether it's gardening equipment or DIY stuff. There are so many things out there that you can borrow really easily. I think once you've got your head around borrowing rather than buying, you can do all sorts of things. Like it's limitless. Clothes for a night out, borrowed from friends, or going somewhere like ultra posh and you really want to go for it, why not rent a designer outfit for the occasion? There are companies that do that. You get to splurge without the storage headache afterwards and feeling that you've spent a load of money and you've got to make it worth your while to wear it again, but you don't want to wear the same thing again. And also, it's at a lower cost. Like, you're not paying for the brand new item. Now, if you're someone that likes to think big and you're going to spiral outwards, if you've got ADHD and you've got an organised brain, now what I will say is a lot of you think that just because your home is chaos and that means that you don't have an organised brain, when actually you do. It's just your home can't reflect that. So let's put that to bed. So if you've got an organised brain and you like going big, then why not think about doing a clothes swap for charity or like a fundraiser? And this works really well in like local schools. So all you do is organise it, give out special tokens or tickets for each item that someone brings along to the swap, and they get to take away that many items. So how many tokens they get for how many items they bring, they can use that many tokens to take items away. And that's with the proviso that anything not taken away gets donated to charity. And that can be a really fun thing for a community to do and pull together. And you get to let go of items that you're not as bothered about anymore and get new items. It almost feels like you're shopping for free and all you're doing is a swap. You might have a best friend, someone you trust really, really well, who's the same size as you, and do a swap with clothes. Like, go shopping in someone else's wardrobe. Give that a go. The other thing is you might be lucky enough to have a library of things near you. And this is basically a company, charity, organisation. That's the word I'm looking for. This is an organisation that loans items out, just like a library, but it's a library of things. I'll put their website in the show notes. Now, if you haven't got one near you, then do sign up to pledge to use one if one starts in your area. That's what I've done because there isn't one near me. But there are some in the US, for example. There's some in the UK. So do check those out and see what's available. In the meantime, though, look at community groups, including things like Facebook groups, Buy Nothing groups, Free Cycle, your local library, and see what is available. Because a lot of the time, it's only when we realise what's possible can we take steps to start changing how we actually live. So I hope that has given you a different thing to think about today. And I would love to know, please do message and let me know what you think. And I'd love to know if you've managed to borrow something or if you've had any thoughts about what you could borrow in future. Now, I will say I've had a few emails and texts this week and I am buzzing. I am not kidding. They have absolutely made my day reading them. So thank you so much. So until next time, be kind to yourself, remember you're not alone, and keep untangling. Thanks for joining me for today's episode of Decluttering Untangled. If you found anything that I've said today helpful, please do me a favour, hit that subscribe button or leave me a review. It's like receiving a virtual high five that keeps me going and lets me know that I'm helping real people out there and I'm making a difference. Please remember, you're not alone in this. I'm building a community of fellow untanglers over on Facebook. Just visit the show notes for the link to my free decluttering community. So until next time, remember, you're not alone, you're not lazy, you can untangle your life.